Welcome to the Santa Fe Garden. Today, we're going to be learning about weeding. I know. Don't get so excited. It's so much fun, I can't even help myself. The truth is, there's a lot to learn about weeding. But most importantly, the thing that we learned in the last video was about knowing the difference between the plants that we want to have there and the plants that we don't want to have there. The plants that we don't want to have there are called what? Weeds! Right, that's what we call the plants that we don't want to have. First, I'm going to show you what I do when I'm weeding a big section like this. This is actually here at Santa Fe. This is one of our bigger beds that we have plants in, and there's a lot of weeds here. So I'm going to show you what I'm going to do in this kind of situation. Then, at the end of the video, I'll give you a little quiz on some plants that we have here at Santa Fe that we want to have here. And then you'll get to know the difference between the ones that we want to have and the ones that we don't really want to have. Which are called what? Weeds. Right, very good. So here we have a section of our garden that needs some weeding. Now, I've already started a bit here, and it's not perfect, I know, but the most important thing we want to do is to take away the plants that we don't want, that are called what? The weeds, right? And we want to take away those plants, and then we want to make sure that the plants that we do want, in this case, these are garbanzo beans, we want to make sure that these plants have enough space around them so that they get the nutrients that they need in the soil so that their roots don't get crowded out and the plant itself doesn't get crowded out. And so since I've gotten started here, I'm going to show you what I would do in the section over here that I haven't really worked on yet. So in this bed, what we planted were two things. There's garbanzo beans, and then there are just regular beans. I think they're kidney beans or something that we had thrown in here. And these are the plants that we want to keep. And everything else that's in here, although they're fine plants and nobody's mad about them, they are going to crowd out all of the other garbanzo beans and the beans that we planted in here. So we want to take those out. So here's what we do. We kind of identify the plants that we want to keep. And then we look around and we just start pulling up, just like I showed you in the last video. You want to try to get all the roots and everything. But we start pulling up all of those plants that we see, and you try to get the whole thing as much as you can. I'm going to try to give you a close-up view of what I'm doing here. So you can see right here we have actually two of the plants that we want right next to each other. This is the bean plant, and these are the garbanzo beans. We want both of those plants to live. So we look right around, and I don't know if you can see the roots very good there, where they go into the soil. We're going to make sure that there's no plants right around there. We just put that to the side. Just like I showed you in the other video, you got to put all that stuff into a bucket. And then you just keep pulling around, and you got to look very closely. I mean, it sounds easy maybe, and maybe I make it look easy, but it's actually, you got to be very careful about when you're pulling something up because it's tricky. This plant even kind of looks like a garbanzo bean, maybe, but it's not. This is a weed. So I'm just going to do a little time-lapse video of this section so you can watch what I do, and maybe I won't take forever to do it. Well, it's not perfect, but I got through most of weeding this. It's gonna be good enough so that these plants, the garbanzo beans and the other beans that we planted in here, they're gonna have a good fighting chance of being able to survive and not be killed off by all these other weeds and stuff that are in here. And I think I did a pretty good job, but this is not the kind of weeding that has to be perfect. We're just trying to get it so that the bigger plants have a chance. And so I forgot to mention that there's going to be some tools that you're going to need. I used my hands, as you can see. That is kind of just how I roll. But there's other tools that you could use. Now, one is my always ever trusty bucket for putting weeds into. Now I have filled up this bucket. You may not need to fill up the huge bucket. You just want a little bucket or something. But you need some place to put the weeds so that you can take them to the dumpster and get rid of them, get them out of the garden, because if you just put them back into the garden, then they just grow again. I always use my hands. It's my favorite tool when it comes to gardening, but you could use gloves on those hands and be able to keep them from getting so dirty. I just wash my hands. Another tool that you could use is something that looks kind of like this, and it's really a great tool. I highly recommend it if you don't really want to get your hands dirty, or you just feel more comfortable. It really allows you to get into that soil and sort of dig up what's in there. It depends too, if the soil's super soft, you may not need something so much, but it's still a fun tool to have. Another one that we use, it looks very similar. It has the same sort of fork thing on the end. This one has both so that you can kind of shovel into it as well. But then there is, oops, the even tinier shovel. Now these are actually more useful when you're trying to pull up weeds. So those are some of the tools that you could use, but the one that you really have to use is the bucket and, well, probably your hands on some point. So I hope that is helpful and covering all the tools that we're going to need to use for weeding.